Today's guest is Mike Spilman. Mike is a veteran of the United States Army, where he served as a 13 FOXTROT, which is a fire support specialist, also known as a Forward Observer. Mike's first duty station was in South Korea, where he served for a year, and then he got sent back stateside, and he was stationed at Fort Lewis, Washington, and this is where Mike and I met and became friends. So please enjoy today's episode with my good friend, Mike Spilman. Thank you. Well, Mike, man, it is always good to see you. And it's just crazy to think that, you know, from being Army buddies back in the early 90s, this technology wasn't even out there.
No.
And here we are sitting down doing a podcast.
Right.
You know, all these years later.
I can remember when it may have been you or Chris was talking about the next big thing was going to be the internet. I can remember that.
Really?
And you, I think, had a computer.
No, I never
You didn't have a computer?
No.
Okay. You all were talking about the internet coming out and it was going to change the world.
Yeah.
And I remember that. And gosh.
Well, and you remember there was that one guy that every time we'd go to a party, he wasn't an FO. He wasn't an AR platoon. But remember, I can't remember. He was down at battalion headquarters, and I don't know who he was buddies with. He'd always show up and he'd sit with his computer. You remember we'd go to a party and everybody'd be, you know, just getting wild.
Right.
And then he would be in the other room, like plugged in on the internet. I don't know if they had modems or what they were. Yeah. It's just crazy to think about, which, by the way, that's one thing we need to do. And I wrote these names down.
Okay.
We got to get a shout out.
Oh, yeah.
Sam Clark, Dave Harold, Chris Murray, John Ryder, and Todd Stockwell.
Yes.
We got to say hello to the guys. And those are the guys that we've kept in contact.
Yes.
And there's other guys, too, that we were friends with, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But through the years, they've kind of...
Right.
But that's our core group of guys that we were stationed at Fort Lewis with.
Oh, yeah. And we just had a little trip with several of them. That was last year when we went to Michigan.
That was awesome.
Dave couldn't make it, and
Todd
couldn't be there.
Yeah.
But we missed him, and we had a great time. And Sam was so gracious with this place, and it was so beautiful. And
it was unbelievable. That was the first time I'd ever been to that part of the country. I'd never been to the northern part of the lower peninsula of Michigan. And you see why there's some states it seems like people are really proud to be from.
Right.
And you see why a lot of Michigan people are proud to be from Michigan. I mean, that is a very, very unique part of the country.
I was just kind of surprised that Sam was moving up even farther north. Yes. I mean, because I don't like the hot weather, but I mean, we get it here in the Midwest or whatever part of the world you say we're from. I've never understood the Midwest and where the Midwest begins and where it ends. And
all right. You're onto something.
Okay.
I've got my theory on it.
Okay.
Now you tell me, because there's some people that consider...
I don't consider Ohio the Midwest.
Okay, I was just getting ready to say, some people consider Ohio. I don't either, although it's Midwest-like.
Yes.
I think the Midwest starts in Indiana.
I do too.
And then you've got Indiana, Illinois, and Missouri.
Definitely.
And Iowa.
Iowa's in
there. To
me,
those four are the heart of the Midwest.
Yes.
Then you have the upper Midwest, which would be Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. To me, that's what I call the Midwest.
Right.
Now, when you get to Kansas and Nebraska and the Dakotas, to me, I call that the Great Plains states.
I call it kind of the high plains, or Kansas is just the plains to me.
Right.
Yeah. Kansas and Nebraska. And then the high plains to me, I kind of think of old Western movies.
High Plains Drifter.
The Dakotas and stuff like that. Wyoming, you know.
For me, the biggest difference is we have farms here.
Yeah.
They have ranches. When you start getting west, you're not talking about somebody that's got, 100 acres or 80 acres. And I know there's guys that farm thousands of acres, but out there, when you start getting west, they're dealing with large plots of land.
Right.
So,
which we had my sister-in-law, her husband's brother, they come for a visit one time, and it was during hunting season, and he was going to go hunting around north central Missouri there. And he was from, I think, one of the Dakotas, where you just rolled up on a place and hunted it if you wanted to.
If it's not posted, you can hunt it.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And he was going to do that back home. And I said, you're going to get shot. You're going to get run off.
Yeah.
That's not how it works here.
Yeah.
So,
it's a little different. So you're from the great state of Missouri.
Yes.
And the wonderful community of Higbee.
Yes. Yes.
How was life in Higbee growing up?
Well, Higbee is, when I was growing up, it was probably population of 800. And probably every census since then, it's went down. And I think now it's barely cracking 500, but small town, rural America. You know, we have a K through 12 school there. 250 kids maybe for the whole school. You know, 20 to 25 would be a big class. My class had 13. And so that was like on the small end. But
what year did you graduate?
1988.
88.
Yeah. So Higbee was it's a coal mine town from the, 1920s. And so Higbee had a reputation from that we're still haven't lived down 100 years later. Nobody wants to be from Higbee. Everybody makes fun of the Higbee people that are local,
Sure.
But we take it in stride. And I think, it helps make a lot of people from Higbee who they are, that we can laugh at ourselves, joke about it and stuff like that. We lived in town, if you want to. So there's a 4-way stop. That's about it. Growing up, there was a bank, a couple bars, a few churches, and a little grocery store. And over the years, just big box stores and things like that. Not a lot in Higbee anymore. Big news when Casey's was built in the early 90s.
It's like that everywhere.
Yeah.
All these small rural towns are just drying up, and it I hate to see it.
Yeah. So we do have the school. It's amazing that the school has been able to me, kind of keep the town together. There's also a couple of businesses that make whiskey and wine barrels, and that's a big part of the economy, I guess.
Now, didn't you worked at a cooperage?
I actually did 3 tours.
Okay.
At A&K Cooperage.
Okay,
So,
and they make wine and whiskey barrels, and years ago I remember you saying they sent a bunch of them to Japan. Is that right?
So they didn't make whiskey barrels; they make wine barrels. It's been probably longer than I realized, but maybe 20 years ago, Silver Oak bought them out. And I think Silver Oak is the major holder of the company now, but the family that had started it, I think they sold their portion. So they make wine barrels. When I worked there in the late 80s, we would get old whiskey barrels in from like Kentucky and places like that. And the Japanese, they wanted the whiskey barrels to be larger. I think they're like 53 gallon, and they wanted them to be like 65, 67 gallon. And so we would get the old whiskey barrels, break them down, add some staves to them and make them 60 some gallon. And the Japanese would use those for storage, I think. And I don't know if they would store rice in them or just different things. And so, so we would just add extra staves to them. And then the Japanese would buy, I don't know, we'd send out maybe a tractor trailer load every 2 weeks with a couple hundred on there.
That's wild. And the cooperages are still going?
Yeah, the one is. And then actually, the family that had the Andrews Kirby family that had started the original, they had sold their portion, I think, to Silver Oak. And then they started another business that's very similar, but I think they make smaller little keg barrels and stuff, and decorative like flower planters and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Now, I know you were a good athlete in high school, and I know you'll play it down, but I remember playing battalion. We played basketball and stuff, and I remember you were a heck of a basketball player, but you were better at baseball than you were basketball. And you played all the way up through Legion ball. Mm-hmm. And Legion ball, you get into some pretty good talent. There's a lot of, like college kids that, in the summer might play Legion ball that play college ball. And do you mind talking about your baseball at all?
Yeah, to kind of talk about growing up, I kind of skimmed over that. But growing up, that was a big part of growing up was athletics, summer baseball, and Moberly, Moberly is the town that's, 8 miles north of Higbee, about 15,000 people. So we would put a team together and play in their summer midget league is what they called it. So growing up, my dad was very involved in coaching. Either he was the head coach or assistant coach for the teams. Me and my brother, we started probably, playing T-ball through the Optimus Club and then playing midget league ball. And living in town, so to speak, my dad, he had poured us a basketball court, asphalt basketball court, because he wanted us outside. He wanted us, even if it wasn't sports, he wanted us being active and being outdoors. And
wow, what a novel idea to have kids play outside instead of sitting on a couch all summer long. Yeah. Back when parents wanted kids.
And so my brother, he's 3 years younger, but we were 4 years apart in school for our birthdays. So as far as high school sports, we never got to play on the same teams, but during the summer months and growing up, our house was always the house that kids showed up at because we had the basketball court. We had a big backyard. So there was always a basketball game going, a wiffle ball game going. We lived right next to a church that owned like 6 lots, so to speak, and we'd have baseball games going. And so our house was always the house where all the kids would be. And, one kid might have to leave and get on his bike and drive away, and then somebody else would come by. And the next thing you know, we're popping some other kid in the game or whatever. So
it seems like whatever sport, when I was a kid, if it was basketball season, you're playing basketball. If it's football, you're out throwing a football, getting teams. If it's baseball, it's
right.
Playing pickup baseball games. And of course, small town, and you never have enough kids, so you always had ghost runners.
Right. Oh yeah.
The
ghost runner. Yeah.
You remember, ghost on first. Yeah.
I played basketball as well. Higbee's was we in Missouri classes, so class 1 school, and we were a small class 1 school. So, I was decent at basketball. I probably wasn't put as much effort into the defensive end because I would pick up a man, but I just wanted the ball. I wanted to be on offense, but
I'm guessing you're tall, so would you play center or forward?
Yeah, I had to play forward or center, and we would sometimes go up against schools that might have kids 6'6", 6'8", and it was my responsibility because I was the tallest kid on our team.
And how tall are you?
6'2.5".
Okay,
is what,
right.
Yeah, but 6'4" with work shoes on.
Yeah, so they list you at 6'4", and you're playing an honest to goodness 6'7" kid.
Yeah, and so but
small towns, it's So now after, I know, which always amazed me, when we would, be sitting around telling stories, and you and I were really close. We still are. We're just geographically we're apart, but
we were roommates for a while. And so, you know how it is, and you're young and everybody talks about where they came from and their funny stories from back home. But there was a period when you left Higbee after high school and you and one or two buddies moved to Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah.
And now, do I have this right? If I remember right, it was because of your love for the band Leonard Skinner. Didn't it have something to do with it?
Well, sure. That's got to play a part in it.
Yeah.
So I graduated in '88, and a guy ended up in Higbee, Missouri. I don't know how, but he was originally from Florida. And he was from the Jacksonville area, which he was on the kind of got off the Legion ball, but American Legion baseball, if I could go back, that was one of the best times playing American Legion baseball, because Moberly would put together a team, Post 6, I think, was our team. And we had some good teams. All 3 years I played, we won districts, went to zone tournament, usually in the St. Louis area. And we never won zone, but we were very competitive. And but anyway, Dan, he was on the American Legion team, but he was the guy that, for whatever reason, ended up in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, that was from Florida. So I got to play with him on Legion for 1 year, and then he was too old. He was a couple years old. He graduated in '86, and he was just hanging around, working, maybe going to college and stuff like that. And he decided he wanted to move back to Florida, but he wanted to take a few buddies with him. So he talked me and two other guys, there were 4 of us, into moving to Jacksonville, Florida. So
how long are you down there?
7 months.
7 months.
Yeah, we signed a 7-month lease, and I don't know if that's standard.
It doesn't sound like it. Yeah.
I never understood why we signed a 7-month lease. But if anybody knows anything about golf, Ponte Vedra Beach is where Sawgrass, the golf course, Sawgrass is, and a lot of times I think they have the PGA championship there, or they have in the past. Well, and I can't even remember, back then there was no internet, so we're getting realtor books and stuff from the area, and we end up at this very, very high-end apartment complex in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. And so you got career people driving BMWs and Mercedes, and here comes 4 kids from Missouri. Well, one who was originally from Florida, but 4 kids from Missouri in an S10 pickup loaded with their belongings, and we stuck out a little bit.
I imagine so.
So we moved down there, and I went to actually apply for a job at the Sawgrass golf course, elite golf course. And I thought, well, I could mow grass or something. Well, they were wanting people with degrees in whatever those degrees are.
Horticulture or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. And golf course management.
Yeah. So needless to say, I didn't have any experience, and I ended up working for a carpet cleaning company, and cleaning carpets at Jacksonville Beach. So
now, so after Jacksonville, you moved back home to Higbee.
I moved back home with my tail between my legs, because I got tired of. I mean, it was 4 guys living in I think it was a 2-bedroom apartment. They were nice places, but out on my own, having to do my own laundry, all this stuff you take for granted when you're growing up, and eating beanie weenies and all that stuff. So I come back home and did my second tour of duty at A&K Cooperage.
That was the second tour of duty.
Yeah.
You said there were 3.
Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt you just a second, because, in in the ancient world, they used to say all roads lead to Rome. And I've told you, all roads lead to Higbee because it's amazing through the years. I have several occasions where I've been talking to somebody and Higbee, Missouri will come up and it blows me away. Here's a town that's the size of Cowden or Herrick or Tower Hill. And I'm like, yeah, I know Higbee. I've even had friends talking about Higbee that have ran into somebody talking about Higbee.
Really?
So it's kind of, of course, I guess we're just right across the river. So we're only a few hours away. It isn't like we're living in Maine or California, but still it's, kind of funny. Now, what led you to the Army? Is there a reason? Let me ask you this. Why did you pick that branch? Why didn't you go into the Navy or the Marines or the Air Force or the Coast Guard?
Well, so I come back home, started working in A&K again, and I loved working there. And they were Dale and DL Andrews, he was a World War II vet. They were good to work for. I liked the job. But I come back home and I wasn't even looking for my second tour of duty. I ran into Dale at Casey's or something. He's like, "Are you back home?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Do you want your job back?" And I'm like, "Well, I guess, yeah, I'll come back to work there." And by that time, I'm probably 20 and I didn't have any direction. I didn't know anything that I wanted to do. My cousin, she had been in the Navy and then she had gotten out of the Navy. And she was out for a year or two, and then she enlisted in the Army. And she'd been in for, I'm guessing, a few years. And every time that she would come home on leave or something, if we would have a family get together, she was like, "Well, what are you doing? Why don't you join the military? Why don't you should do it?" And so my dad was in the Army, and I guess after just listening to her a little bit and just kind of looking around and like, well, what am I doing? And I was like, well, I'll go see what it's about. So like I've listened to guests before on your podcast and I know your story and stuff like that. I wasn't the type like from an early age, I'm going to join the military. Mm-hmm. And even at that point, I was just kind of looking at what am I doing? I'm not doing anything. I'm living at home with my parents, going out on the weekends, not doing anything productive. And so I was like, I got a hold of a recruiter and we went to, I think I talked with him a couple times and I guess maybe my dad was in the Army. My cousin was she was kind of advocating for it. And I was like, well, I'll give it a look, And so I always think this is a funny part because it was the late 80s, early 90s, and computers were starting to become, personal computers was starting to become a big thing. And so I was like, well, maybe I get some kind of job in computers. And that seems to be what everybody's talking about. I can't remember the test is it ASVAB or GT, yeah. and I scored fairly well on it, and got the recruiter, went and met the recruiter, and we drove to Kansas City. And I was like, yeah, I want to get into computers, and maybe I'll get some experience, learn a trade, and when I get out, that'll set me up. So Army recruiters, we know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're always honest.
Yeah.
They never lie to you.
No, never lie. And my computer was, I become a forward observer. And the computer was that little field box. What was that thing?
I don't even remember what they called those.
It wasn't a GLID.
GLID was
the lasing thing.
It was the lasers when they'd first come out.
But you remember that little little green field box?
Yeah.
So,
which you don't use very often.
No.
Sometimes you do, but most of the time we're calling and directing just off a radio.
Yeah. Because you had to run a landline to those things. And if it was dark, remember you'd try to see what you're typing. Yeah, those things were awful. But anyway, the recruiter got me into computers. He got me in one of the most dangerous jobs in the Army. And when I told my parents I was going to be a forward observer, and my mom found out, I think at the time, like there was a statistic like in combat situations, a forward observer had like a 19-minute life expectancy.
It's so funny that you say that, because I remember when we were going through AIT and one of the instructors was like, forward observers have the shortest lifespan of anybody in combat. It's the average life expectancy is 30 seconds. And I'm thinking, well, somebody got a stopwatch. Yeah. That's just, all the nonsense that you get told. But it is a dangerous occupation.
Yeah, it is.
There's no joke about that.
As far as like always knowing I wanted to join the military, that wasn't me. I admire, total respect for people who do carry out that tradition, but I just was kind of kicking it and bumming it and not doing anything with my life. And I figured, well, when you're 20 or whatever, 3 years, I mean, it seems like a lifetime once it happened, but
So you did a 3-year enlistment?
I did a 3-year enlistment.
That's what mine was too. Cause it seems like a lot of guys, there's 4 is kind of the standard, but then they also had the 2+ training.
Right.
That I was looking at that. And then I thought, well, by the time you get done with basic and AIT, you're only got a few months away from 3 years. So you might as well just go ahead and do 3.
Right.
So that's,
Yeah. So I signed up for 3 years, and even though I had a great upbringing, two great parents, 2 loving parents, me and my brother, we didn't want for anything. I mean, they didn't lavishly spend money on us.
You came from middle class. You didn't have a lot of money, but you always had clothes and food.
Clothes, food, love,
discipline, the things that you need.
Yes, exactly. And so joining the military, I think really, because even like in high school, when we were playing sports, I didn't want to run the extra yo-yo or suicide, whatever they call it, but I was always the kid that pretended like I did. Right. And like when the coach would say, well, we all didn't make it in 22 seconds, we got to run another one, I would, yes, let's run another one, coach. And I'd have about 8 teammates mad at me, but I was like, you're not going to break me.
Right.
Yeah. And so when I got into basic, and
which is at Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I know we went through the same stuff. And I think on like very early, like the obstacle course days and climbing that rope across the
creek.
Yeah, that was a good 15 or 20 foot drop.
Yep.
Like I was one of the first ones in line, and I jumped up on that thing and wrapped my arms and legs around it, hanging upside down. And I mean, I shimmied across that like no, get out. And the drill sergeant on the other side was like, that's how it's done. That's how it's like how Spilman done it. That's how it's done.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, he's making an example out of me. And I just didn't want to die. I didn't want to fall and die.
Do you remember, and I think it's in basic, the night infiltration course?
Yes.
Where you're crawling, you're going through, it's like World War I type trenches, and they got you with your rifle and you're running, and then you come and you do that. And of course, it's all at night.
Yes.
And then you come to the one part that has like wire.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, maybe 1.5 feet off the ground, something like that, 2 foot. And then you have to crawl through it. And artillery simulators are going off, and they're shooting live rounds of M60 tracers. And it's, of course, there's a platform, and they always tell you if you stick your head up, you're going to get shot. Yeah. Well, you could probably run and jump and not get shot.
Right.
But I think it's just to get you used to the sound of rounds kicking over your head, and boom, an arty simulator goes off.
I remember that. I mean, like it was yesterday, and I remember being out there, and even though it was Fort Sill, and I enlisted in March or something that was going on, but still when you're out there running and and got dirt and sand on you, and it's, got gear on. I still remember sweating. I still remember it was like 1 or 2 in the morning. And I'm like, this is the worst night of my life.
Why did I do this?
Yeah, why did I do this? But then again, I'm thinking this is great.
And how do you? It's hard to articulate that to somebody that's never been in the military. It is horrible. It sucks, but it's awesome.
It is.
I don't know any other way.
Right.
And we were in a good time. Of course, you enlisted before the Gulf War.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes. So I went to MEPS in November of 1990, and
they were there.
Yeah. And so I signed up, did the oath at the MEPS, which I found out later in life, that's not the real one, but because you do it again when you report to active duty. But for all purposes, it was the real one.
You're swearing in.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I was going to leave I think the recruiter was like, well, you go into late entry and, 2 or 3 months and you can still be at home and say goodbye to your friends and all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, that sounds good. So I signed up to leave February 19th of 91. So in between those 2 or 3 months, the Gulf War, they started the build up, and then
it was Desert
Storm.
And then it became Desert Storm.
Okay. Then it became Desert Storm.
Yeah. Right.
And so, I don't think we had I know we didn't have the technology we have now, 24 hours news cycle, but I think CNN was the only game in town. And I was watching CNN every day because I was like, oh my goodness, what is going on? And when I reported, I spent about a week in reception, and then I got to my basic platoon or whatever. And I think I was there maybe 2 weeks, and it had all started and ended in the 2 weeks. But of course, all the drill sergeants and all that stuff, they were like, oh, we got to get you boys ready and all this stuff. And so I look back on that and I'm like, I raised my hand, I swore an oath, and I wasn't going to back out of it for whatever reason. I mean, whatever happened.
You're in it for 3 years.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why, I signed up, I knew the risk, and if it would have went on, and they would have called me to go, that's what I would have done. And
I was in basic training that same year later on when the Soviet Union fell. And my dad had told me a story before I left, because you know how it is. You're talking to all the people that had been in the military and gleaning whatever information you can from everybody. And Dad had told me that they had came in one day when he was in basic. Of course, he knew he was going to Vietnam.
Right.
And that the United States had just declared war on China. And he's like, I'm thinking, well, I already know I'm going to Vietnam. Now we got to fight China too.
Yeah.
And he's thinking, Jamin, that's just crazy. And so, of course, it ended up not being true. They were just messing with them. So when the drill sergeants came in and told us that we need to get ready, we're probably going to war in Russia, the Soviet Union fell and all this, I'm like, I remember telling everybody, they're just messing with us. It's not true.
Yeah.
And I was telling them all that, hey, they did the same thing to my dad when he was going to Vietnam. And then the next day, the drill sergeant came in with a USA Today paper, and it was on the front page. And I'm like, well, I doubt if they're going to fake a newspaper. They're not going to go that far with it. I'm thinking, wow, get ready to go to Russia. Well, this is going to be the big one,
Right, yeah.
And of course, nothing ended up coming from it. But the mind game. So now you ended up, okay. Do you remember what battalion you were in basic training?
I think we were first of the 33rd.
That's what I was in.
Okay.
I was in, I think, Delta Battery, because in artillery, they're not battalions or companies. They're batteries. Right. And I was in, I'm pretty sure it was Delta Battery, first of the 33rd.
I was first of the 33rd, and I can't remember if we were Charlie or I can't remember which one we were, but I just remember when we used to sing cadence, you always diss the other battalions, Alpha, we're not Alpha, you know, and I get stuff I can't say on the air, but we're not Bravo, BS Bravo.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. And then AIT, we were Delta 2nd of the 80th. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember that, but we've talked at AIT. We went to and I found out from a guy on my mail route. He's a retired military guy, and I'd forgotten the name of it, but they called it the Hacienda, and it was the big Spanish-looking buildings. And I think we've talked, and you didn't go to those.
I did.
You did.
Okay. I started off there.
Okay.
I started off
the big 3-story, and they had the tile roofs. Yes,
we started off there, and then they shut that down. And like the last half of AIT, we were over kind of on the same side of the tracks where basic training is.
Okay,
we were just down from it, and we were in like the starships.
Okay, see, I wasn't in I was in the Hacienda, and I found out from this retired military guy, oh, you were in the Haciendas, because you know. And I was like, yeah, I do remember they called it the Haciendas. Yeah. And it's just when you talk to somebody, it doesn't take long to sniff out whether they know if they're being truthful with you.
If you've been in the military, the guys that are the fakers. I remember one time, this was up when I was working at the prison, and this inmate was talking about his military. I was in the Army, and one of the other inmates had supposedly been Navy, and he's making fun of, you know, how interbranch, we always make fun of each other. And I'm like, so you were in the Army? I'm like, what was your MOS? And he threw out some, I don't know, whatever it was, 31 kilo or whatever. And I'm like, well, what's that? And he told me, and I'm like, so where'd you go through basic? And he threw out a fort. And I said, who were you with in basic? What battalion were you in? And he was like, Bravo. And I'm like, Bravo. And he's like, yeah, I was in Bravo. I'm like, Bravo what?
Right.
He's like, it was just Bravo or Alpha, whatever he said. And I'm like, yeah.
Elite group.
Yeah, sure you were. Yeah. Yeah. Let me guess. The next thing you're going to tell me is, well, I can't tell you about what I did because it's all classified or, it's top secret. Yeah. Okay. Sure it is. You know. But so now you get done with basic and AIT, Forward Observer, and your first duty station is across the pond.
Yeah.
You went straight to Korea.
I went to Korea.
And your father, when he was in the Army, had also been in Korea.
Yes. 25 years later, he was part of, I believe, the 8th Army.
Okay.
And he was a telegraph operator.
All right.
And he was in Seoul.
Okay.
And it's really cool that he has some old, I think it's 8mm footage of him like out doing drill in front of the Quonset huts and stuff like that. And a few years ago, well, it's been several years ago now, but we took all that footage, and he had some of us as, little guys and stuff, and he had it all converted onto VHS. So now we still have it on VHS. So I need to take all that stuff, family memories and his footage, and get it put on a disc or whatever you do now. I'm not a technical.
Did he have advice for you going over prior? Do you remember him? Because you had to have been picking his brain, because I'm sure you came back.
Yeah, I come
like
home
for a week or two.
Yeah, because that is at the time it was considered, they called it hardship tour. So I was single. Even being single, you're not allowed to take leave. You're going for a year, and but if you're a married person with family or whatever, they can't go with you. I think a lot of that has changed in the recent years.
I don't know about families. I think it's still considered hardship because I know technically we're still at war with North Korea.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so I remember more of his advice just leaving to go to the service before basic. And it was, don't be last. Don't volunteer for anything.
Amen.
And it's pretty good advice.
It's great advice. That is almost exactly what everybody told me was never raise your hand and volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea when you graduate basic training is that drill sergeant doesn't know your name.
Yes.
You want to be middle of the pack.
Yeah.
Everybody told me, you don't necessarily want to be the best guy.
Right.
You sure don't want to be the worst guy.
Yeah.
As long as all you want to do is just get through it, kind of keep your head down. And
don't let them know your name. Yeah. Which is, I mean, they're going to pick on everybody. You're going
to serve your time.
Yeah.
And Dad did tell me that. He goes, there's going to be a day when you're going to be the guy that screws up for everybody else. They're going to make sure of it. They're going to make sure. It's like, because they get together and they talk.
Right.
And it's like, oh, that guy's pretty good. Okay, tomorrow will be his day. And so maybe it might be the fastest, the best shot, he's best at everything, but he's going to be the one that screws it up for everybody else the next day. Yeah.
And I remember Dad telling me too, and this goes, I think, for life in general, and it doesn't mean that we shouldn't strive to be better and constantly trying to improve. But he said, the Army, you're going to find when you think you're the best at something, you're going to find out you're not.
Amen.
You're going to find out you're not that good.
There's always somebody better.
And I remember we had a kid in basic. I've never been a runner, but after some encouragement from some guys with some drill sergeant hats on, I got to where I could, about max the 2-mile run. We had a kid in our battery that could come in under 10 minutes in the 2-mile. I mean, just flying.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Some of these guys, it's like they take off in a dead sprint. And most of them, by the time you're going into that first quarter mile, you're passing them. But then you look, and there's some guys, it looks like they're almost sprinting the whole time.
I know it.
It's like, how can you run that fast for 2 miles?
I know it.
It's crazy. And push-ups, sit-ups, whatever. There's guys that just, no matter how good you think you are, that's right, there's somebody better. So what did you think of Korea?
I liked it. I mean, so you're looking at, somebody that had been to Jacksonville, Florida for 7 months and hadn't seen too much of the world. And I come home, I think they advanced me leave because I hadn't even earned, but they, I think, suggest taking at least a week. So I probably come home for a week, 10 days, already going in the hole on my leave. And I think my parents took me to St. Louis. I was catching a Mac flight. And so big wide body, I don't know the 707, whatever it is, 3 seats, 5 in the middle, 3 seats full of nothing but military personnel. And I'm just looking around, I'm flying to Korea, and I'm like, now I'm really thinking, what have I gotten myself into? And I was sitting next to there was all branches on this flight. I mean, I don't know if there was any sailors, but there was the Marines, Air Force personnel, Army, everybody's in uniform. And I'm sitting next to a E5 Army sergeant, and he's giving me the layout. He's already been to Korea once, and he's telling me how everything is. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't know if this guy, and God knows anything, but I'm giving the whole yes, sergeant, no, sergeant, because we're in uniform and he's an E5. He's got stripes. So I'm like, he's telling me, you need to do this when you get there. You need to do this. And I'm like, thinking in my mind, this guy may be a total hack.
He could be lying about the whole thing.
So.
And my wife, Morgan Fairchild, she can't go with me.
So I get there, and very first duty station, and I find out I'm assigned to division, which I find out later that's a good thing, but I didn't know that because I'd never been anywhere. So I get assigned to division Camp Casey, which is right outside of the Korean city that it's right next to is Tongdeshan, or in Korean, or Hangul, I think is their language. You can pronounce it with a T or a D. You can either say Tongdeshan or Dongdeshan. And so it never made sense to me.
Right.
But anyway, probably land size of Higbee, if you, whatever square miles, but like 70, 80,000 people.
That is insane.
Yeah. Cause they go up.
Yeah.
And so you talk about culture shock. Yeah.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Now, how far were you from like the DMZ?
So if you Seoul,
which is the capital of South Korea.
Yeah. And they were just coming off it had been 3 years, but they were just coming off the 88 Olympics.
Right.
So they had done a lot of work in Seoul and things like that. But probably Seoul is probably central of Korea looking at a map or anything. But if you're in Seoul and then the DMZ, Camp Casey's probably about halfway in between.
Okay.
So probably 30 miles north of Seoul, 20 miles south of the DMZ, I'd say.
Now, did you ever get up close to the DMZ?
I went and toured it.
Really?
Yeah. And so, which I always kind of look back on that is I'm glad I went, but for American service members to go tour the DMZ, you had to follow certain rules. You had to go in our Class A uniforms. We were given specific instructions because we went in the blue long buildings where the armistice was signed.
Right.
And when, like they say, there's an actual line in the room. And on the other side of that line is North Korean service members, soldiers or whatever, holding rifles, which I assume are loaded and ready to go if need be.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
So I always felt like we were catering to their specific, and maybe it had nothing to do with them. It was just the rules that we had to follow if we went and toured it. But I did go to the DMZ.
Now, one thing I always harken back to those days, all the guys that had been stationed in Korea, you always hear about soju, the alcoholic drink that supposedly had formaldehyde's what they always said. I don't know if that's true or not. Did you ever drink soju? I'm guessing everybody goes to Korea has a soju story. You don't have to get into it if it's
no.
If there's an embarrassing that you don't want to talk about.
No.
But everybody I've not ever talked to has a soju story.
So the kind of suggestion is you can have one soju, but you probably shouldn't have two.
Okay. Which is a warning. But any young kid's going to be like, right.
Yeah. So I remember turning 21. It was a Sunday. And I actually, because I was assigned to division, which we kind of played out later after I met you, the FISC guys, which is forward surveillance team.
Yeah, or fire support team.
Yeah. Yeah, and they just throw the I in there. So it's FIST. But we kind of had it kind of a little better because people kind of forgot about us. And we kind of did our own thing. Wouldn't you think?
We're not artillery and we're not infantry.
Right.
We're in between. And we were the craziest. In any artillery battalion you go to, anybody will tell you the FIST guys are just crazier.
Yeah. Remember the commo guys wouldn't even come over to our side of the building.
They didn't even want to come to our side of the building.
No, I've heard about that. Yeah. We're not going over.
We were friends with one of them, and it took, I don't know how many months he'd been there. And finally one day he knocks on the door and we're all like, "Hey, what are you doing? Come on in here." And then once he realized, okay, I'm okay over there. But and you think about too, and I'm jumping around here, but you remember, were you in on the Christmas tree?
I got to see the fruits of your labor.
You were part of that.
No,
okay. I was thinking you were.
I saw
that when that was one of the greatest things we ever pulled off. And because we had to have keys go down to a Connex, we had to get equipment out. And then we went and used Chris's truck. So anybody listening, what happened was at our battalion, And this was in 92 or 93. I think it was the Christmas of 92. We were going to have leave so we could all go home for Christmas exodus. So some guys had even went out and bought airplane tickets to go home. I had not yet. And then I think it was the battalion commander. Somebody said, no, nobody's leaving. Everybody's got to stay. And people had non-refundable tickets. Everybody was mad because we told our families, hey, I'm going to be home for Christmas. So we were really upset. So we went and got some equipment, loaded up in Chris's truck. I could have swore you were there because there was a bunch of us.
I might have been at I was there at the raising, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Tree.
Okay. All right.
But I wasn't in on going to get it.
So we go and we cut down a tree on just some random tree, the pine tree out on Fort Lewis, which is a big no-no because the environmental thing was starting to kick in. You can't damage, as much as you can. So we cut down a tree. And this thing was huge. We had to strap it to the top of Chris's truck. And it was just that tiny little blue, Nissan. Yeah. And so there's probably 10 of us hanging on this truck. I don't remember the exact numbers. And we got this tree strapped to it. And then we come back to the battalion. And of course you're dodging MPs and this is middle of the night. And we go out and we take that they called it BII. I don't know if you remember that, but it'll snap it up underneath a Humvee. And it's basically a metal, I don't know what you'd call it, but it holds your axe.
Oh yeah.
Your shovel.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then there's a pickaxe. And so that's the equipment that we had gotten because one of us, some NCO had left keys with one of us, which they should have known better. Which reminded me I just remembered this one. We got to tell the story about whenever we had to take the drug test and we were down in the hallway and that sergeant wanted collateral. We got to get to that one. Okay. But anyway, so we go and we get this tree and we dig a hole right out in the middle of battalion quad, which is right in the middle of everything. And we raised up this tree. We looked like the guys raising the flag on Iwo Jima. This tree was huge. But before we raise it up, we decorated it with, I'm going to be polite here. Somebody had some very, what's the very graphic pictures of females in positions. And then I remember there was one guy that had some stripper or whatever. You remember that? And she tied him up and started attacking him. You remember that? And he started screaming because she'd locked the door, had him handcuffed to the bed and started beating him. And anyway, they ended up having to go get CQ or staff duty and kick the door in. They ran her out. Well, anyway, she had left one of her shoes, like this high-heeled shoe. So we had that on, just horrible stuff. And we raise it up.
Beverage cans and
beer bottles and beer cans and whatever else. And we put it up in the middle, and then we went and got boxes, and somebody went and got wrapping paper, and we wrapped them all up. And I think it was to our battalion commander, Merry Christmas, right? And so, and you think about, for us, the level that we went to,
right? And
nobody got caught because nobody would sing. Of course, you know, we're not going to say nothing. And the next day was Christmas. And it all started because Todd wanted us to drink hot buttered rum. That's how this started. He was big because it's Christmas Eve. We're going to have some hot buttered rum. And so we were making these hot buttered rums. Started off innocent enough. Next thing you know, we're in the battalion quad putting this tree up, just horrible. And then it ended up, he came in with his wife and his kids to come into the dining facility the next day to have breakfast with his soldiers to show them how much morale boost. And they said he was walking, one of the other battery commanders is escorting him around, and he's like, oh, somebody put a tree up. Well, that's a good idea. And they said he walked up and he's got his wife and his two little kids, and they said as they're walking up, they start seeing how it's decorated with these images, and I guess he flipped out. And they wanted us. They wanted to know who was involved. And I remember that was a big thing, and nobody said a word, which is amazing to have that many people involved.
Well, I always think about, because there is a picture of the tree in transport, I think.
Yeah, well, there's pictures. Yeah.
And I always think of the movie Christmas Vacation when they go out and Clark cuts down the tree and it's like 20 foot longer than station wagon. It was just like that, except it just didn't have a big ball root on the end.
Exactly.
It was exactly like that.
Yeah. So you were there when we were raising it up. Then. Okay. I knew you were.
Yeah. I got in on the later action. But to go back to the Korea thing, though, I think on the soju.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry.
So no, I love listening to the story. Yeah. But so I took the advice. I drank one, but I bought two, and I started in on the second one, and then my night ended pretty early, and I realized, okay, I'm glad I didn't finish the second one, but it's time for me to go to bed. So I lived in Korea in an old Quonset hut, and I mean it was, I don't know when it was put up, but it was probably not too long after the Korean War, and but we had sectioned it off where each guy had his own room. I mean, they just put up little divider walls, but I went into my little room and laid down on my bunk, and luckily it was a weekend night, so I didn't have to work the next day. So because I felt like, I never touched soju again after that.
Yeah, they say it's. Well, I remember guys would have it, but they said the stuff in the United States is different. Yeah, from what they do in Korea.
Yeah, I don't know. I kept going to AFES or the shop at and getting the bush or the bud after that.
Yeah. You were in Korea for a year. Now, did you get to do much calling for fire up there when you were in division?
No. So basically, over there we had, I think, 3 lower enlisted FOs. We had a track mechanic, because we had a 577 track for our vehicle.
That was the Fist V. Right? Didn't they call that the Fist V, the Fist vehicle? I think it was. Okay. Or no, maybe that was a 113.
113 are the 577 is the same as the 113. It just has, instead of like going straight across the back, it goes up about 2 feet. And it's a little bit higher, and it has a generator up there by the driver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we had 577. So basically in Korea, my job was to drive the majors. We had like 4 or 5 majors and a lieutenant colonel to different camps, Camp Stanley, Camp Humphreys, to go to meetings on a daily basis. If we were out in the field, like the FIST guys had our 577, the air defense guys, they might have had a 133. And then there's like S2, G2 operations, 4 or 5 components that would pull these vehicles up as close as they could get them. And then they had canvas tents that would roll off the back, and you'd set up with poles. And then the ones on the end would have their sides down, and the 2 or 3 in the middle would roll both sides up. And then you had like do they call it a TOC? Is that what it's?
TOC. I think maybe Tactical Operations Command or something. Yeah.
And so that was, and then, they would be simulated kind of war scenarios if we went out for 3, 5, 7 days or whatever. So basically my job was to guard the perimeter, RTO in the middle of the night when nothing was going on, or keep the generators full, because you had lights and stuff in there. And so basically nothing really to do with the job. I mean, over there that's why I ended up with a top secret, because we had TAC fire systems, and then we'd run that TAC fire tape through the machine, and it was supposed to encode stuff going out over the airways. So
yeah, I remember that was always a big deal. People would talk about having a secret security clearance, which I had one too. Mm-hmm. But it was only for the comms equipment. It sounds cool to say, I've got a secret security clearance, but the reality of it was just for being able to speak encoded, which now I think they got radios. The Singars had just come out when we were in, and I think they do all that themselves, basically.
So I had a top secret because I was peon, I guess you would say, and Sergeant Enoch, I remember him. He was a E7. And it was my job on days we were rolling out to go train to go to the armory and draw the encryption tape. And my instructions the very first time was go straight to the armory, sign for the tape, bring it straight back here and give it straight to me. Do not stop to do anything along the way. And I'm like, yes, Sergeant.
Right, yeah.
And so that the few times that, we went out, we did a pretty good amount of training in Korea. Probably, I'd say we go out for, at least once a month for a couple days, maybe some longer exercises. But basically, in Korea, I was at the higher echelon and didn't know how good I had it, I guess, even though I really wasn't doing the cool stuff, which I would have rather been doing the cool stuff with like the line units.
Right.
And when I say that to people listening, I mean in training world.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And anybody that's been under fire in any branch of service, men, women, my hats are off to you.
100%. Yeah. We served during a pretty good time.
Yeah.
I've always said I got more from the Army than the Army got from me, but. Yeah. So did you enjoy your time in Korea overall? I mean,
well, I did. I look back now, reality is I'll never be in Korea again.
Right.
And so I wish I would have taken a 54-year-old mindset and could have plucked it in a 20-year-old's head and gotten out and seen the culture. And, we did go off base, and I went to the DMZ on that tour. We went to Busan one time for a little weekend, like beach thing, which was amazing. I had people, Koreans coming up, adults, kids alike, mostly kids, but some adults wanting to take their picture with me because I was 6'2" and a half.
Yeah.
But I was like a circus freak over there, and people are wanting to take their picture with me. And I'm like, what is going on here? So that was a neat little weekend trip. But to get out away from the camps, because around the camps, the local people, the village, they're catering to the soldiers, I mean,
sure.
and it makes sense, their livelihood, but you're not, it's a little skewed on the culture and stuff, So
you're right. They're more Americanized than if you would have gotten further away.
Yeah. And they're worried about, are you going to buy their stuff?
Sure.
And I totally get that.
100%.
I get that. But I wish I would have got farther into seeing things that I'll never have a chance to see again, probably.
When did you get to Fort Lewis? I got there in January, and that'd have been 92 because I got there in January. So I had a few months I was there. Yeah. Now I was trying to think, did you move right in with me when you first got there? We were right off the bat, we were roommates.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
It was me, you, Don Douglas, and Dixon.
And Waylon Dixon. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
We had those 4-man rooms with the wall lockers kind of separating your so-called 90 square foot of living area.
Whatever it was.
And I was the low man, so I had the little corner that was right next to the door.
Yeah. Yeah. Even though you'd been in the service longer than us, but you were new to the unit. Well, it didn't take us long to become friends. I remember when you got there, and it seems like we just hit it off right off the bat, and it's funny how you make friends pretty quick in the military anyway, but we all just kind of coalesced. And
I think I got there like toward the close of business, whatever day it was, whether it was a Monday or Tuesday, and everybody was heading down to the mess hall. And, everybody was ready to get down there and eat. And I can't remember who escorted me up. It may have been Sergeant Grove. And he's like, this is our new soldier. Well, we're going to eat. Throw your bags on the bed or whatever. You can go with us. And that's, I followed y'all down. So,
yeah. Sergeant Grove. Whoa, Sergeant Grove.
Talk about Sergeant Grove.
It is crazy. We had that one major cabana tan, Copa cabana tan. Yeah, stupid stuff. Gosh. But, well, when you got there, were we still the 199th Light Infantry Brigade or were we already the 2nd ACR?
It was going through the process. And I remember the feel of, I don't know about the nation, but that part of the country, the Northwest, because we'd go out on field training and convoy and have your convoy intervals and having to drive on, what's the main interstate out there? 5, is it?
Yeah, I-5 runs north and south, but a lot of times we go to Yakima.
Yeah. And you would have cars passing us, people be honking and giving us the number 1 sign as we're convoying. Do you remember that?
Not really. I don't.
People would be giving you thumbs up as they drove by, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. But I think the transition had already happened. Back then, there wasn't Velcro. You had to get your stuff sewn on your uniform, and that's why I wore that today.
Yeah, I noticed that one. Yeah, the Two Georges Parade.
But I don't remember getting the old patch sewn on my uniform.
The thing that always struck me that I thought was strange was how we were the 199th Light Infantry Brigade on Friday. On Monday, we were the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment Light. Which, if you think an armored cavalry regiment is a lot different than light infantry, none of our equipment changed.
Right.
It was just with the stroke of a pen. Of course, we all had to have the new patches and on your Class A's and on your duty uniform and all that. But I always thought that was kind of strange.
Right.
How do we go from being a light infantry unit to an armored cavalry regiment?
Right. And we were supposed to be a new, wasn't it light mobile?
We were supposed to be able to deploy anywhere in the world within, was it 24, 48 hours? Was it 48 hours?
I think it was 48.
Yeah, because I think, your quick deploy units are 24. And then we're supposed to be the next guys coming in, like right after your Ranger battalions, your 82nd Airborne, and then us. We're like tip of the spear, kind of thing. And gosh, and then they started putting us on all those alerts. And our buddy Todd. No, he wasn't the only one, but he was the most notorious for guys would be out recreating late into the evening, and you got to get up at 4:30 in the morning, 5,
early.
Whatever time you had to fall out for PT. Of course, guys would come stumbling in 2 or 3 in the morning, and which was every night. Yeah. It was always, one of us was doing something, but our friend, he was notorious for coming in, alert, and he'd start beating on everybody, grab your bags, report down. And so guys would be waking up thinking it's legit. And you go out and it's like, and then after a while it's like, it's just Todd.
Boy, the Todd that cried wolf.
Yeah, you're like, whatever. You just roll over kind of into it. But do you remember the night? And here we go telling stories. He came in and it was Sikora was his name. I'll go ahead and mention, I don't think he'd mind. And he'd had enough. And, Todd's a big dude. Yeah. He's like probably 6'6".
Yeah,
broad shoulder. I mean, athletic. He's a big fella. You don't want to. And Sikora's an average size guy, but he was at his breaking point. And he came, and I remember a bunch of guys were in the hallway. They're like, Rueff, they're hollering for all of us. And I go running out, and there's Sikora has his pool cue broken half. You remember that?
I do remember
and
that.
He's swinging it, trying to hit Todd, and it's like, there's 4 or 5 of us grabbing one guy, 4 or 5 grabbing the other. It's amazing nobody ever got killed in those barracks. I mean, between fights and
stereo wars
and just, it would get out of hand frequently.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this one time, and I think I mentioned this in our chat group. The first time I saw the movie, The Hangover, I thought, that.
Oh, when they wake up?
When they wake up the next morning, I thought, my God, that reminds me of how many nights that, and I'm not advocating that kind of lifestyle. Trust me, I'm not. But it's funny to look back on it now as an adult. It's like how John Ryder said something when we were up at Sam's. He's like, how did we live through all of that? None of us got killed. None of us, all the crazy things that we did. And anywhere we went, it was like we always had to be the craziest there.
Oh, yeah.
If we went to a party and there was guys from another unit or a different branch, or if they were civilians, whatever.
Yeah.
We just had to one up everybody.
I can remember you were talking about the Todd alerts. And if I remember right, the rooms had like the little LASP, like the little slide lock.
Yeah.
But we weren't authorized to lock
You
those.
weren't supposed to lock your room.
Yeah. But when Todd would call an alert, you could hear it like a chain reaction going down the hallway.
Because you never knew where he was going to end up.
Yeah, because everybody knew after the couple that it was Todd, and everybody was locking their door.
I remember the night the MPs came looking for Geo. And because he was, I don't know, I'm not going to say his name. We'll just leave it at that. And you know, I'm talking about Geo. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And he was going to kill. He had a shotgun and was going to go kill a woman or something. I don't know if he'd been dating her. She was messing. I don't remember the whole story. But and then they came and Todd had been out that night. And he was coming back when the MPs were in there. Of course, they're serious because they're looking for, you know.
Yeah, and he's joking around
and
hugging them.
He couldn't even speak. And I remember he was holding his arm out like an elephant trunk, flopping it up and down, going, nah. And they're like, what's wrong with him? We're like, oh, nothing. You know, we're like, Todd, you got it. You know, so we're, oh, gosh. Well, we might have to get a hold of him. He may not want, you know, and we're being very docile here. And I'm as guilty as anybody. The same stories could come on you, on me, on any of us. We were wild.
Yeah.
We were wild.
I mean, you're living in a concrete cinder 3-story building with a bunch of 18 to, well, Todd was the old man. And he was in late 20s.
Probably mid-20s at the time.
And
the testosterone is, you can cut it with a knife. You know, we're all in shape. We're all young.
I'm surprised anybody ever got any sleep, really. I can remember having like the Army issued earplugs. And putting those in. Of course, they didn't. They can only block out so much. But.
We're lucky we lived through it. That's for sure. The barracks would get out of hand. All right, the one story that while I'm thinking of, it's still fresh in my mind. And this is your interview, and I'm doing a lot of talking here. To me, we're just
chatting.
We're going back and forth. They had woke us up one of these 2:00 in the morning for a drill. Do you remember that? And then you and I go down. So it was a mandatory urine test. So everybody had to drug test. And you and I are sitting in the hallway, and he was your chief. And he was the one. I don't remember his name.
I can't remember his name either.
But he messed everybody's name up. He was the one, right?
Right.
And so instead of Harold,
it was Howard.
He always called him Howard. And we're sitting there, and he came up, and he talked like this. He's like, Spilman. You're like, yeah, Sergeant. He's like, give me the keys to the Connex. And I remember you're like, I don't know, Sergeant. I'm going to need some collateral here. And he goes, all right, I'll play your freaking game. What lateral? And I remember you and me looking at each other, and I have never forgotten that. And that's one of those silly little inside that we could say that to each other. People, well, lateral, what are you talking about? But he didn't know what collateral was. And I'm thinking, how can you be an E6 in the Army and you don't know what collateral is? I'll play your game. What lateral?
What lateral? Yeah. But he was always messing up people's names, always messing up the saying. You're like, what are you talking about?
It's amazing he made it, you know? And that was one of our leaders.
He had the rocker. He was waiting for the 20 to get out. Because at the time, if you made E6, I think you were and weren't going any higher, you could still get your 20 in.
And we had a company commander, battery commander, whose wife was killed and eaten by a bear. Were you there for that?
I think that was before I got there, but
that was tragic.
Yeah. But I remember hearing the stories afterwards.
It was insane. You can't make something like that. How many people are killed and eaten by a bear every year?
Yeah.
And they were up in Alaska. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they'd went up, they were both from Alaska, I think. Mm-hmm. That was horrible. Cause you'd seen her a couple times. He brought her to like, they have a family day, or how they
mandatory fun day.
Mandatory fun days. Yeah. So we're at Lewis. And okay, one more thing I was thinking about. Were you up on the OP the day that 155 round dropped short, the Copperhead round? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember.
I think we were all there.
Yeah. Yeah. It came in, I don't know, 200-300 meters.
It was closer than that.
Closer than that. I remember just like some higher enlisted kind of NCOs just throwing people down to the ground. Is that?
Yeah. It landed between two OPs because we were calling. And you know what was weird about that day? They gave us all flak vests. When did you ever call for fire in a flak vest?
Never.
That day they gave us all flak vests. So it's almost like
it was
they knew
planned.
They knew something wasn't right with these Copperhead rounds, were the high-tech artillery round at the time.
Right.
And it dropped between two
just
OPs. Just in case, right. And they fell between two OPs down in a valley. Luckily where it went, nobody got hurt. And I had been up, this is when I was a regimental driver at the time.
Because they would call out splash. So I guess through the technology, even back then, they can look at the flight and kind of guesstimate where it's going to land and stuff.
I don't know.
Because I just remember there was a few seconds heads up and then like some E6s, E7s throwing people to the ground.
Well, I remember I was walking from one of the OPs and I was walking back up to the talk. Mm-hmm. So I was out in the open, but it didn't land too far. But I just remember when you watch like Saving Private Ryan, that's the closest I've ever been on that end of artillery. Usually anytime we call it, it's landing, way away from you.
Yeah.
But it reminded me later on when I saw where there'll be a bomb and the camera shakes and you can't, that's what it seemed like to me.
Yeah.
I was walking and when that thing hit, it was just like, it just rattled everything. I can't imagine if it had been, gosh, you know,
the power of
155 millimeter howitzers.
I remember you used to have to memorize all those weapon systems and effective ranges, and I just being able to spot enemy vehicles by their turrets and wheel track designs and all that stuff. And, all that stuff that we used to do that's obsolete.
Yeah.
Oh, like calling for fire is all, it's all GPS now. Yeah. We were out there trying to look at a map and
think about how big the lasers were that we were using. It was a giant box. And now they're handheld. It's like a little, it's just amazing how, technology's advanced. So we go from Fort Lewis, and then we make the move down to when they were drawing down the military and kind of moving everybody around. Then we went to Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Yes.
What were your first thoughts when we got to Polk? Do you remember? Was there anything that
I didn't do the advanced team? I think we were given two options: help move or take 30 days leave. Was that right?
I don't remember.
And it was.
I remember I was one of the first ones.
Oh, okay.
Because me and Chris drove.
I took the 30 days leave.
Okay.
I remember I didn't want any part of the rail loading the equipment and unloading it. And I was like, well, I don't have much leave, but I'm going to burn it here. And I went home and probably didn't do anything productive. But because if you didn't want to take leave, you were going to go to Polk and do whatever kind of administrative, getting stuff ready and as stuff arrived on rail, unloading.
That's when I was supposed to go to the 509th. And when I first got down there, I was still with the 2nd ACR and they were going around putting new Venetian blinds in the rooms. So Chris and I, like our first duty there, because they were getting those barracks ready for all the incoming soldiers, we had to escort them to every room. because there's still a few people there.
Right.
And then in the meantime, that's when everybody else, Sergeant Coulter and Ryder and all those guys started rolling in. And then that's whenever we went over to the 509th. But we were down there originally, and that was pretty cool because we got to stay inside AC for, it was, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, the rooms, though, I mean, if you took service members today, they would probably look at those barracks and be like, oh, man, this is terrible. But it was
an upgrade.
It was top of the line for us.
Sure.
Had your own bathroom and shower.
That's a big deal.
Had air conditioning.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt.
I mean, you didn't hang your towel up to dry because it was wetter the next day from all the humidity.
That's what I remember the most is when we started running PT. Guys were dropping like flies because they're still doing the same stuff you're doing up at Lewis, staying out till 2 or 3 in the morning and then rolling, going and doing PT. But nobody was used to that humidity, and guys were getting dehydrated and passing out. And in the middle of a run, somebody just fall on their face.
Yeah, I remember just leaving the barracks in the evening when most places in the country, and maybe not everywhere, but a lot of places in the evening, you at least stand to be outside. But I'd go outside and I'm like, yeah, this is miserable.
Yeah, it was,
even at night.
It was, yeah. The food, I love the food. I remember going to Catfish Junction on Billy Goat Hill, and they had all you can eat crawfish. And I just remember going in there and tearing that up. Now, how long were you at Lewis? Or I mean Polk.
Let's see.
Did you get out before I did? I can't remember.
I got out. So when we moved from Lewis to Polk, I was told you needed 8 months of retainability to make the move. And I had 6 months. So I actually extended for 2 months. So if we got there like in mid to late summer, right? At Polk?
Yeah.
And then...
Yeah, it was hot.
Yeah. So
it was Conway Twitty died.
Okay.
I remember. That's weird how you remember. Chris and I were coming in, and they announced on the radio that Conway Twitty had died.
Okay.
So I think it was maybe like May or June when we got down there. Okay. I don't know. So
I got there in June or July, because if I would have extended for 2 months, no, it would have been later than that. So I probably didn't get down to Polk until probably September or October.
Okay. So it was a little bit later.
Because I got out in April and I had to extend for 2 months.
Okay. So you got out in April of 94. Okay. And I got out a few months after you then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But once we got down there, you had went to the 509th, and Chris was part of another. I mean, we were all still part, but it was different.
We were all in different units then, and we weren't but we still all hung out.
Yeah,
and it was like that was still our core group, even though I was in a different battalion and you were in a different battalion and Chris was. We were all kind of all over, but we would still get together when we could. Because I remember we went to Mardi Gras in then February of 94.
Yeah,
and well, that was a fun time.
Yeah, it was fun. I can't imagine doing that.
Can you imagine going now?
No.
I can't imagine doing anything even remotely close to that now.
No. I remember, so I was 23. I would have been 24 later that year. But I remember the next day feeling like I'd been in the gym for like 8 hours doing bench presses and leg curls just from fighting the crowd.
Oh, that was...
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stories there too, because I remember the laser pointer. No, you don't remember that. I'll tell you later.
Okay.
And hook. We don't say hook. Hook. That was how we could identify each other. And as a side note, which is crazy, we're in the middle of right down on Bourbon Street. It's wall to wall people, just insanity. And we hear Chris, and we look over, and there's our buddy Todd, who had been out of the Army
probably for
several months.
Because I had dropped him off.
Maybe a year.
Yeah,
and we run into him and one of his buddies down at and somewhere there's a picture of all of us when we went out to eat
with the photo bomber.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah, those were wild times. So you get out of the military.
Mm-hmm.
You're done. You come back home to Higbee.
Third tour.
Your third tour into Cooperage.
I was at, once again, the only business in town at the time, Casey's, getting gas. And my old boss pulled up beside me and was like, "Hey, are you out of the Army?" And I said, "Yes." And he was like, "Do you want your job back?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll come back to work. I'm not doing anything." I worked there maybe about 6-7 months, and I enrolled in college, Moberly Area Community College.
You're a Mac daddy.
I'm a Mac daddy. And I was getting $700 or $800 a month to go to school. Well, I enrolled in the first semester, and being the great student that I am, I had to take like the intro to math because I'd been out of school for a few years and I never took any college prep math courses in school. I took Algebra 1. That was it.
Right.
Everything else was consumer math and freshman, you know. And so I was, I had that. I had introduction to speaking, American history, pre-Civil War, just some basic courses. And I found out what I knew like from 6 or 7 years earlier. I don't like school. So I went for a month or so. I was living at home again. My parents let me move back home, and I was working at the barrel factory part-time. On Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I would work, half a day and go to school or whatever. And and the whole semester costs like $900. So I just figured the first 2 or 3 checks I'll just use for myself, just on nothing important, not save it, not pay the school off. I'll use the last one to pay the school off. Well, little did I know, when you stop going to school and just driving up there and sleeping in your car so people think you're going to school,
right,
they drop you from the classes. So
right.
That information caught up with the Army before my big financial plan of paying them off. So I got dropped from all my classes, and I had to pay the $900 out of my own money.
Right.
But I learned that I'm not. I got a high school education, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
You were done with school at that point.
I was done with school.
Then you ended up working, I know, for the railroad.
Yes.
And then
so I worked at the Cooperage again for about 7-8 months. Then I'm kind of back where I was started before the Army. What am I doing? And like I said, I loved working that job, but in Higbee and working at the Cooperage, but I was like, family-owned business, a small kind of operation there. What am I going to do? So my dad he was working on the railroad. He ended up working there 42 years, and at the time he was probably somewhere in year, I don't know, he retired in 2001, or it was early 2000. So at the time he was toward the end of his career, but I was like, well, he told me they were hiring, and I went and applied with 150 other people, and I would probably be lying if my name didn't help me get the job, but there was tests you took and
sure.
And stuff like that.
And you're a veteran.
Yeah, and veteran. And that helped out. And I got on as a West End conductor, meaning Moberly runs 3 directions. They run to Kansas City, or at least they did at the time, St. Louis, or to Decatur. And so I was assigned a West End. You didn't really have a say in that. It's just where they needed you. And I trained to be conductor on freight train. And it was it wasn't I guess I look back on it. It was pretty intense training. You had to take several months or 2 or 3 months of riding with marked up conductors and engineers and letting you learn the territory, learn the rules. There's knowing the signals when you're running on foreign territory that's not your own, knowing their signals, knowing turnout speeds, going through switches. And
would you recommend for a young person to work at the railroad? Because I've always heard you're married to the rails.
You're married to the rails. And my dad, he worked 42 years, but he wasn't in transportation. He was in like he did clerk job. I mean, he did all kinds of stuff over his 42 years, but he always had a set schedule. Now, it wasn't always the best hours. He might be 11 to 7 or working a swing until he got years in, whole days. But as a running man, is so what they call them, a running man, you're tied to at the time it was a beeper. You know, your beeper would go off. You'd have to find a phone. Hey, we need you for this train. And they give you like a 2-hour call, you know, and you'll be catching the 383 at 1 a.m. or whatever. And so it was a good job. Once again, good job, loved the job, but the baggage that went with it of being home a day or two, being gone a couple days.
Now, were you married yet?
No, but me and Leslie were dating, and so she kind of knew what I guess she was getting into, I guess.
Yeah.
But then you can think one thing, but until you kind of live in an experience. And so
that's rough on a young marriage, a young couple starting out. That's not really.
And I realized, like after a certain year, they would hire everybody as a conductor, but you would work your way into becoming an engineer. Back in the old days, they hired for brakemen, conductors. Back when they had cabooses, they had all like 5-6 different positions. The old engines, you had a fireman throwing coal in the engine, and you only got to run the engine when the engineer wanted a break, or something like that. But so I knew, to kind of get back, I knew that eventually I would have to go to McDonough, Georgia for like a 6-week engineer school. And then, you start making more money. And when the money starts becoming kind of the motivator. So I was like, man, I worked there 3 years. I was like, if I don't leave now, I'll probably never leave. And so kind of broke my heart to leave because my dad worked there and stuff. But he told me a few years later, he's like, well, you made the right decision. And so. And
now you're how many years into a postal career?
24.
24 years with the post office. Yeah. Now, does your military time count for that?
It does.
Awesome.
And
for your retirement.
Yes. And so I started in Columbia, Missouri, which is about, it keeps growing. It's up to probably 120,000. When I was working there in 2001, I'd say it's 80, 90,000. They had about 90 city routes. They had 2 different offices. Downtown location, and I was out on Tiger Station. It was a separate location, but you had bidding rights for either one. But I worked there about 6.5 years. But as soon as I walked in from day one, there was other veterans working there. And they come up and are you a veteran? Yep. And he's like, I'm going to get you signed to show you how to buy that military time back. Guy named Lyndall Lee, if you're out there listening, thank you so much. They'd come up with a formula of what it would cost to buy that time back. I think I had to pay $1,500 to gain 3 years. And so I can retire from basically have 27 years in. And so about this time, summertime of 2028, I can retire. So
awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
But when I left Columbia, I was a regular. You start as a sub. I was a sub for a couple years and then had my own route. But when you transfer offices, you go back to the bottom of that office. So I transferred to Moberly and had to go back and kind of work my way back up and get my own regular route, which took another 5 years of being a sub. But little bit closer to home, smaller town. Usually the smaller the post office, the less kind of chaos or stuff that goes on, which just makes sense because managers have a lot less people to manage. And and if they got a good work team, then, you know.
Well, Mikey, I appreciate you coming in, driving all the way over here and doing this.
Yeah. How long have we been at it?
We're 1 hour and 46 minutes into it.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I was thinking it'd be nice when we all get together again, all of our buddies, having 3 mics, we can set up. And then I would just love to just do
popcorn.
Yeah. Just have where, you know, you and Chris are talking, and then, you know, maybe Dave and Todd come in, and, you know, Sam and John, and we just kind of mix it up, and everybody takes turns just talking and telling. And some of the stories we can't probably, we may not want put out there, but the ones that we can tell. So, well, Mike, thanks again, buddy. I appreciate you coming in. It's always good seeing you.
You too.
It's
you too. You're not going to cut me off yet, because I wanted to tell you, you know, I think it's really cool that you're doing this. What's always impressed me from day one is your knowledge of history.
Well, I appreciate that.
And even listening to the podcast last time about knowing the geographical makeup of the place you call home, and just knowing history and stuff like that. It's very impressive. Well,
I appreciate that. I get that from my father. He's always had, you know, a thirst for knowledge of history, and we all joke that come from small towns, small communities about our education. We all make jokes about it, but the reality is the education I got from Shelbyville schools was unbelievable. I had great teachers. I mean, I can count. There's probably 2 or 3 teachers, honestly, from kindergarten through the time I graduated high school. And, you know, in high school, you're got different teachers teaching different subjects. And I had a lot of teachers, and there's probably only 2 or 3 that I would say shouldn't have been educators. You know, we had very good faculty, and I didn't take it serious. You know how that is. But anyway, that's very nice of you to say.
I remember on the last one, you were talking about the teacher that was saying, on this side of the road, stuff grows. On that side, nothing does. So.
And of course, that's the side our farm's on. That's the way it goes, which we don't even farm it anymore. But, you know, I did an episode that hasn't came out yet. It will by the time anybody obviously is listening to this. And I told my buddy Gabe that he's there's a handful of people in the world that I've met that I always feel better talking to. He's one of them, and you're on that list too. And I didn't mention you in that one, but you have a way about you that it's like things can be going wrong. Everybody's going crazy, and you're just calm and cool. and you'll have some funny little comment to throw out that kind of puts everybody at ease. And,
well, a good example is, remember we didn't even get into the, going out to the Army Navy game.
No, we didn't get into that, and we should.
But on the way back, we had your dad, Vietnam veteran, and God bless all the Vietnam veterans, all combat veterans.
Period.
But I know a little bit that I mean in the middle of it.
Right.
I mean, yeah, sure. But we're on our way home in a snowstorm.
And you're driving a 15-passenger van.
Top-heavy van, and your dad leaves it up to us, who, I mean, we're obviously in our late 40s or early 50s at the time, to make the decision. And we decided we were going to pull over and not pushing another hour or two. And later on...
Was it Dayton, Ohio, or Columbus, Ohio?
Dayton.
Yeah.
And later, after we got checked in, your dad's like, I sure am glad you boys decided to stop. That was a good decision.
And then the snow started, and all the way through Indiana. And then as we got further west, it kept getting worse and worse. And you were such a trooper on that trip, because you drove the whole thing.
Yeah. But I remember thinking, you know, the stuff your dad has seen, and he's leaving it up to me to, I mean, kind of a,
Yeah.
And then he's like, good decision. I was like, I felt like, okay, we did all right. Harold approved.
Yeah. Hopefully we can do another trip like that, especially once you get retired. Maybe we can just, I'd like for me and you just to head out and do a fishing trip, a hunting trip.
Well, maybe we get John, the new fly fishing expert, to show us some pointers.
We've got to get back up there. We've got to at some point go hit Puget Sound again, you know?
Yeah.
Because you think about when we were there, Seattle was the center of the universe. We were there when the whole grunge had kicked off, and we didn't really. You don't really appreciate it at the time to realize you're in a place that has such a cultural shift for the country, and we're just kind of like you were saying when you're in Korea. You know, youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah,
and it's a shame that we didn't really. Maybe we did, I guess, to a point.
Yeah, we did our own thing.
We did our thing,
but we weren't concerned on
Kurt Cobain or who.
Yeah. We weren't concerned on maybe stuff that's a little bit more lasting.
Yeah.
All
right, Mike. Well, thanks again, brother. It's always good seeing you.
You're welcome. And, thanks for having me.
You bet. Anytime.
Yeah, you hear that? I was the first there, group.
Yeah. There you go. Shout out to the rest of them. All right. We'll talk at you later.
All right. Thank you.